Today is the first round of the Cup. You are the Cup holders. What do you think of the addition of the amateur sides into the top 8 amateur sides?
It can only be good for the game. Any of the David Goliath type scenarios that can develop out of cup, call it lotteries. I think it's a good progressive step, and I look forward to seeing a couple of upsets, but not here today.
You took part last Wednesday night in the Charity Shield final. Were you a little bit disappointed with the response from the footballing public, or do you think there may have been a reason for that?
Look, disappointed is a word that comes to mind quite easily. I feel that game should be a lot more than what it is. Last year we had a great crowd down here when we played Sorrento, and it was seen as a season opener. This year, unfortunately, I think Football West, within their planning, obviously lost it in the system somewhere down the track, and it became an afterthought, and it had to be put together in a hurry, and therefore the lack of promotion, marketing, and again, hence the poor crowd. Which the game that was played the other night at Floreat was a good, open, entertaining. Like one of my mates said, mate, you're talking up a 0-0 draw, and I said yes, it was quite exciting for a 0-0 draw. It was very exciting, and but it was good. It was good spirited. Both teams played exhibition style football, and that's the sort of game that you want to see as your season opener. So I think we can better it. I think next year it's something that has to be put on the agenda, and I think it's time our code stepped up and showed that it's a charitable group of people that are involved in the running of football here in Australia. And I think if we can truly name it a charity shield. This year it was called the Football West Community Shield, obviously for let's call it aesthetic reasons, because if you're going to call it a charity shield, money has to be raised and charity has to be paid. So no doubt this year that couldn't be done, but I hope we had good discussions with Gary Chandler and Keith Wood, and both myself and Peter Kalitzis were very proactive in making this a highlight game for or this game a highlight game for the start of next year.
What did you think of the magazine supplement that was given away with the Sunday Times last Sunday? Did it meet your expectations? Were you happy with the way it was done? Were you happy with the club's involvement in the publishing of it?
Yeah, I think the club's involvement side of things is, probably a weakness within the putting together of the magazine. But I look at things in the positive light and say what a great initiative to get this out into the readership, showing our clubs, showing the profile of our game, and I think as a total advertisement for who we are, who the football people out there are. I think it did that job. I've had lots of friends who weren't football people come up to me and say, got the leaflet, saw your club, great stuff, you guys are out there, and they said we didn't realise there was so much happening in women's football. So I think it got a message across to the public who aren't die-hard football supporters. So and like all things, nothing's perfect, and I think it can be bettered upon next year. And suggestions that we put in there was, if you're going to highlight your Premier League football clubs, so we try to get more supporters down to the grounds. I think we've got to also have a little mud map there showing where the venues are for the people that don't know, where the clubs are or who the clubs are. So, there's all sorts of little ideas that'll come out of all this.
Would a fixture list have helped?
We mentioned a fixture list. I think that was something that they'll take into consideration. They weren't really keen to go fixture list because it then becomes like how many fixture lists? Because our game's so wide and varied. Are we going to leave the first division out of it? Are we going to leave the amateurs and the women's and the juniors? Where do you start? Where do you stop? And all that sort of stuff, has to be discussed. And I think that's up to the directors of Football West and the standing committees to, say, well, this is the best way to proceed with it. But I think it's a good start starting point. And for next year, I look forward to maybe a bit more dialogue between the people putting the mag together and the clubs, because I think that's important to get. If you're going to put stories out there about clubs, you want to make sure that they are the truth and the facts are there.
Well, I suppose what most people tend to forget, and even myself, from looking, it's not just the Premier League that Football West actually are looking after. They're looking after juniors, women's, the whole gambit, amateur, the whole lot. What are your hopes for the coming season? What really would Don Evans, the president of Stirling Football Club, Stirling Lions Football Club, really want to see happen, other than Stirling win the double, take out all the under-18s, etc.? But what would you really like to see happen as regards football in WA and the Stirling Football Club as well?
Well, I'm someone that I love the idea of winning, like all people who are at top level of business or clubs. Winning's what we're here to do. But I think winning with the whole call it process in mind, understanding that winning may not be taking out the trophies of silverware, but winning may be 2 or 3 of the lads stepping out of this park and onto greater pastures. And I think we've got an attitude here at Stirling that all the good things like championships and silverware and all that, they come naturally if you're doing the job right with developing your youth within your club. We're very pro-youth, and we will encourage that. While I'm around, that's the whole objective of this club. And while Mickey Lyons is at the helm, we are youth-focused, and we'd like. For us, Stirling, we'd like the message obviously to be passed out. The other clubs have been doing it prior to us. We're not the new stars on the block in youth development. Perth were doing it many years ago, and ECU were doing it very well. There's other clubs out there who've been doing it. It'll be great to see, and I see this year a lot more clubs getting with the youth, ethos, and giving kids a chance. And I think that's where the excitement is. But from Stirling's point of view, I think if we can just keep breeding these exciting little players, the Ludovic boys, the Philip Arnolds, the Stevie Heskes. I look at our depth, and I see 10 to 12, fantastic kids coming through. And for me, I want to see them playing for the youth glory, or for the glory, or for somewhere anywhere in Europe. That's the goal of this club. Springboarding talent onto the next level. But if we get a few championships along the way, so be it.
Who do you see as the major threat, say, in the championship? I suppose I should be asking this of Mick Lyons, because we know presidents know absolutely stuff all about the game, but who would you see as your major threat?
Yeah, being a bit clueless in that area, I'll just turn around and say, look, it always goes down to the top 2. Floreat and Perth are pretty much the big 2 in football at the moment, and we're quite proud to say, we feel that we've got the better of Perth in head-to-head fixtures over the last couple of years. We seem to be their bogey side, with our kids picking their pockets on occasions, and with Floreat, last year they were a machine, and we knocked them out of the cup. So it just goes, that anyone can beat anyone on a given day. I think this year is going to be quite equal. I think there's probably about 5 or 6 teams in the mix. Sorrento will be, back in the mix after having their horror year last year. Coburn, us, Floreat, Perth. There's 5 or 6 that'll be in the mix. Exciting year ahead.
Aloisi for us, John.
Here's Aloisi for a place in the World Cup.
He's